when karma strikes even harder. It's strange how life works. Sometimes, you go through it thinking you're invincible, that the consequences of your actions won't catch up with you. You think you can escape the mess you make, but eventually, it catches up. And when it does, it hits harder than you ever thought possible. I had known Christine for years. We met back when I was still figuring myself out, and she was already established as one of those people everyone wanted to be around. Loud, outgoing, and always the life of the party. We hit it off instantly. She had 2 children, Mia, her 20-year-old daughter, and Miguel, who was 16. They were her pride and joy. And for a time, I thought I knew everything about her life. I had no idea how much she was hiding behind that smile. It wasn't until years later that the full weight of what she had done started to come to light. Back in 2005, Christine's brother was having an affair. At the time, I couldn't quite understand why she didn't just tell her sister-in-law, Agnes, but then, I wasn't in the middle of it. She was. And Christine, well, she did what she thought was best. Instead of supporting her sister-in-law, she supported her brother. She facilitated the affair. She set up meetings. She was the one arranging the secret rendezvous between her brother and the other woman. Agnes, poor Agnes, had no idea. At that time, she was already facing her own battles. She had been diagnosed with chronic kidney disease. It was a devastating blow for a woman who had always wanted a family. She and her husband, Christine's brother, had struggled for years with infertility. But no one told her the full truth of what was going on. She couldn't see what was happening behind her back. Christine, in her misguided loyalty, made sure that secrets stayed hidden. Agnes didn't have anyone. She was fighting a battle with her health and trying to keep her marriage together, unaware that it was already falling apart. I could never forget the way she looked when I saw her a few months before she died, so small, so fragile, the life drained out of her, not just from the disease but from the stress of it all. A year after Christine's brother abandoned her, Agnes passed away. It was like watching a slow-motion tragedy. She died from a combination of stress, neglect, and the lack of medication she desperately needed. But I knew the real cause. It wasn't just the disease, it was the betrayal that slowly chipped away at her spirit. She had been alone. No support. No one by her side when she needed it most. I never told Christine how much I blamed her for what happened to Agnes. I wanted to, but I didn't think it would do any good. She had already lost so much. Or so I thought. Then came 2022. I remember when Christine told me about it. Her brother, the same man who had abandoned Agnes, was now the one in need. He was diagnosed with prostate cancer. But this time, the tables had turned. His mistress, the same woman Christine had helped him meet years ago, left him the moment he couldn't give her what she wanted anymore. She had been in it for the luxury, for the gifts, for the life he gave her, but once he was no longer a provider, she was gone. It was almost poetic, in a way. After everything Christine's brother had done to Agnes, after everything that had happened to their marriage, here he was, alone, abandoned, just like his wife had been. It was the sort of thing that made me think about the universe's strange sense of timing and justice. But that wasn't all. Christine's life was about to take a similar turn. Her husband, the man who had once been by her side, had left her too. And just like her brother, he had left her for the mistress, the same one. It was like the world had come full circle, and Christine was now at the center of the same betrayal she had helped orchestrate years ago. I remember seeing the defeat in her eyes the day she told me. Her voice was low, like she was still processing the hurt, even though it had already settled in. It didn't take long for me to realize what had happened. Her children, Lee and Miguel, had cut her off. Lee, who had always been close to her, had turned her back, unable to forgive her mother for what she had done to Agnes. Miguel, who was younger, followed Leah's lead. Christine was alone. I'd seen it happen before. Agnes had been in this same situation, abandoned by the people who should have cared for her. Now, it was Christine. She had no one. No family, no support, no one to turn to. Her phone sat silent, and she had no one to help her, just like Agnes had once been. She was left with nothing but the weight of her own actions. The first time I visited Christine after everything fell apart, I didn't know what to say. She looked so different, her hair was messy, her clothes unkempt, her eyes tired. She was a shadow of the person I used to know. It was hard to reconcile the woman sitting in front of me with the one who had once been so lively, so full of life. We sat in silence for a long time before she spoke, her voice almost breaking. "I thought I could escape it," she said quietly, her words barely above a whisper. "I thought I could fix things, but I've lost everything. And it's my fault." I didn't know how to respond. How do you console someone when they've hurt others so deeply, when they've caused so much pain? I don't know what to say to Christine. She had made her choices, just like everyone does. She had helped destroy a marriage, and now she was paying the price for it. Her children were gone, her marriage was over, and her friends, well, they had all disappeared too. "I wish I had been there for Agnes," she said, her voice thick with guilt. "Maybe if I had done something differently, maybe she'd still be here." I didn't know what to say to that either. I wasn't sure if it was guilt or just the weight of the years of bad choices finally crushing her, but she had nothing left. I could see it in her eyes, everything she had tried to protect, everything she had done for the sake of loyalty, had turned to dust. And now, just like Agnes, she was left alone, with nothing to show for it. Karma, I thought to myself. It had a way of coming full circle, and in the end, it had struck even harder than I think Christine ever could have imagined.